some instructions so that we can start on time, but we can maximize your participation. I'm Kathy Kelsey. I'm the Dean of the Chapel and Spiritual Formation at Iliff, and I coordinate commencement. And we have chosen again this year to decrease the perfection of this ceremony in order to increase the participation of everyone who has joined us or will join us over the course of the next hour and a half. And so I want to invite you to make a couple of changes in Zoom that will maximize your participation. Zoom is set up so that it suppresses background noise and from everybody's microphone when our microphones are open. And when it does that, it then suppresses and makes it impossible for sounds to layer over the top of each other. And so when we cheer with their suppression on, it chooses one voice and another voice and another voice and another voice, and it will sound like there are 4 people cheering when there are 400 people cheering. So there's a solution for this, and it's in your control. If you go to the bottom left-hand corner of your Zoom screen, you'll see a little microphone. And it will either have a red line through it, meaning you're muted, or it will not have a line through it, and it means your microphone is live. We can turn off your microphone if you forget to, although if 400 of you forget to, it's going to take us a while to get everybody quiet. So it'll help if you remember to turn on and off your microphone. When you decide to cheer, turn it on. When you finish cheering, turn it off. But next to that microphone is a little caret or up arrow. And if you click on that caret, you will get a black box that says select microphone at the top. And all the way at the bottom, it says audio settings. Click on audio settings. So we've gone to the lower left-hand corner, to the microphone, clicked on the up arrow, and we've got a box. We're going to audio settings, clicking on that, and that opens a new window that says settings. If you look, and it'll be on, audio will be highlighted on the left-hand side. If you go partway down that settings box, you'll see it says suppress background noise. And it is probably, the blue dot next to auto is probably highlighted. I want to encourage you to click on and make the blue dot be next to low, so that there's little suppression of background noise. And that will make it possible for your cheering to layer with everybody else's cheering and make a wonderful cacophony of sound together whenever we are cheering. You don't have to do that, but I invite you to do it. Just a note, I'll try and remember to invite you to change it back at the end of the ceremony, because the next time you open Zoom, it will still be on that setting unless you change it back. Once you've made that little change, then you can click on the red dot in the upper left-hand corner of that settings box and close that window. And we are ready to go into the ceremony. So I want you to hear what it sounds like when we cheer together. Okay, so once you've heard the sound, then you'll have a clearer sense of, yeah, this is okay. This isn't just crazy Kathy telling us this is okay. So I'd like to invite everyone to unmute. Yep, I can tell some folks have unmuted because we're getting the feedback. That's all right, feedback's as well. Unmute, and on the count of 3, we're all gonna cheer for our graduates. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Yay! Yay! Wonderful. All right. Now you know that you can make a wonderful noise whenever you want to during this ceremony. So I invite you to do that, to cheer when it feels right and appropriate for you to cheer. And there are a couple of points where I'm pretty sure it's appropriate to cheer. And so if you haven't started cheering, I'm going to get us started. And I hope you'll join me. All right. I think we are ready to begin. Daryl J. Walker and Karen Weir Joseph, help us come together in this space.
Good morning, beloved community. At some point, I will press my hands, inviting you to likewise create an unending circle. We're the ones we've been waiting.
We are encouraged by the great cloud of witnesses. We are standing on the shoulders of our ancestors. We acknowledge and appreciate the efforts of current human rights and social justice advocates. But we are not waiting for them. We are not waiting for another Martin Luther King Jr., Marsha P. Johnson, or Grace Lee Boggs. We are not waiting for another Abraham Joshua Heschel, Yuri Kochiyama, or Cesar Chavez. We are not waiting for another William Lewis Moore, Howard Thurman, or Russell Means. We are not waiting for Nona LaDuke, Dolores Huerta, Linda Sarsour, or Marion Wright Elder. We've been waiting for. We're the ones we've been waiting for. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are a circle within a circle with no beginning and never ending. We are a circle within a circle with no beginning and never ending. We are a circle within a circle with no beginning and never ending. We have created the circle. President Wolf, please welcome us into it.
Thank you for that wonderful beginning. We are a circle, and welcome to the 116th annual commencement of the Iliff School of Theology. Let me begin by just telling you how beautiful you all look. You are wonderful. And welcome to your families and all who have gathered with us for this celebration. I congratulate each of you who have done the work, completed your degree, and will in a few moments have it conferred upon you. We celebrate with you this wonderful accomplishment. And I also congratulate the faculty, the staff, and the trustees of our beloved school in their own very distinct ways, pour out their gifts into our students' lives. Our institutional aspirations are summed up on a day like this. It is what every person related to this school works toward. Our graduates are our most significant gift to the world. I bring a special welcome to the families, partners, and friends who have been traveling along with your loved ones through this academic journey. Marilyn and I know what that means to have supported each other in this journey. So we feel it personally with you. We are grateful for your presence today and your support throughout. Again, this year, we gather virtually out of an abundance of caution. We celebrate that Iliff will be able to open its building in the fall. I am grateful for the willingness and the wisdom of the Iliff community to embrace safety first. And at the same time, the very same time, perform the functions of the school to fully complete the year so we can have things like this, a commencement ceremony. While our nation is seeing the signs of coming through the pandemic, we must remember that this is not true everywhere and for everyone. Access to vaccines is not equally distributed across our globe. Nationalism, border disputes, discrimination toward communities, inequity of economics interrupt the recovery of the global human family from this virus. May this reality, the one that we have been living with for the year and a half, may this reality sensitize our awareness that our neighbor is not just next door, but everywhere there is life. No one is safe unless we are all safe. So may this commencement, like all of our work at this school, dare to place the pain of the world at its center. And may any accomplishment that we celebrate be offered up as confirmation of our deepest vocations. May we all be fully alive to the meaning and rich potential that this day represents. So again, to all of you, graduates, friends of graduates, family of graduates, partners of graduates, welcome. Blessings to each of you. Blessings, blessings, blessings. So let me tell you what is next. There will be 4 videos. The first 3 are gifts from our graduating class, and the 4th is the reading of our commencement speaker, reading that our commencement speaker requested. Let us be together in this celebration.
Iliff is a graduate school that cultivates compassion and justice
through courageous imagination.
Iliffians are activists, servant leaders, and innovators
in diverse religious, secular, and academic communities.
We are Iliff.
We are Iliff.
Where mountains lift the eye above the level plain, and stretch our sight toward heaven's sky, we work and pray to gain a vision of the range that rises in the mind as science, thought, and culture change, how faith will be defined. We do not fear, for we believe God dreams of worlds we can't conceive.
I'm walking uphill, both ways it hurts. I'll bury my heart here in this dirt. I hope it's a seed, I hope it works. I need to grow here, I could be closer to light, closer to me. I don't have to do this perfectly, yeah. Rain it falls, rain it falls. It's pouring on me, the rain it falls, rain it falls. So when the seeds of love and hope, love and hope, we don't have to stay stuck in the weeds. Have I the courage to change? Have I the courage to change? Have I the courage to change today? Have I the courage to change? Have I the courage to change? Have I the courage to change today?
I can hear it in the crackle of a bonfire, and I can hear it in the middle of the ocean water. Oh, I just can't explain, but it makes me wanna cry. And I can hear it when the rain falls on my windowsill, on a playground where children's laughter lives. Oh, I can't explain, but it makes me wanna cry. And I can hear it in the busy New York City streets, and I can hear it in the country Georgia fields of green. Oh, I can't explain, no, but it makes me wanna cry. Sounds like grandmama telling you where you come from. Said it's kinda like laughter out of the mouths of your loved ones, or catching up with an old friend, reminiscing on back when. It's like a summertime sprinkler, street side with my ice cream cone. Said it sounds like a choir singing hymns, hallelujah. It's the voice of God, yeah. It can make a grown man cry. And I can hear it on the wind of an early morning, when the fog is getting thick and the birds are chirping. Oh, it's just something I can't explain, no, but it makes me wanna cry. And I can hear it in the hush of a midnight hour, when I'm alone in my room home if I'm going under. Oh, I just can't explain, no, but it brings me back to life. It's like the sound of a newborn baby crying. Yeah, like the final breath of a loved one passing. Oh, it's a beautiful thing, yeah, 'cause it leads me to the light. It's like a drive-through movie, small town with a big screen, like grilling out in the front yard. Sometimes it's the simple things, like storytelling with my grandpa. He was so easy to believe, like when the sun goes up, yeah. Sometimes it's better when the sun comes down, 'cause there's just something about the moonlight, and it can make you feel alright. Oh, it's the voice of God, and it can make a grown man cry. Yet again, it's the voice of God. It can make a grown man cry.
Voice of God is the voice of God. Voice of God is the voice of God.
Hello, fellow classmates and distinguished guests and faculty. My name is Jonathan Drummond, and I represent a committee of our class who gathered input and then met online to imagine how we, as a class, could give back to the institution who has curated the educational journey that has been so instrumental in our own professional and personal spiritual formation. We will be forever marked by our affiliation with Iliff, yet we have also been changed by the confluence of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, coupled with the enormous political turmoil and division in our country, as well as societal events which have spurred a reckoning regarding racial discrimination and harm done to others. Because we will never be the same and wanting to carry this awakening forward, we have chosen to provide Iliff with an embodied gift of what Iliff has taught us. So, President Wolf, it is with pride that our class would like to provide the lead financial gift to spearhead an annual event where our class and other alumni and friends can gather virtually or in person when able to spend time continuing to hone our Justice Initiative skills while listening to and learning from those who find themselves doing creative work at the margins of society. We would like to strengthen Iliff's commitment to not only pursuing, but actually creating a continually more just society for our world. The link to the donation page is in the chat feature for the reference, but this is also an opportunity for our friends who have joined us online to give a gift in honor of their favorite graduate or colleague, or perhaps any of us to honor that faculty member who has been influential in our journey here at Iliff. When you visit the link, there's even an option to easily give $20.21 as a way to commemorate the class of 2021. I'm happy to announce that we've already raised over $1,000 towards this initiative, but our goal is to raise at least $2,021 to kickstart this awesome ongoing gift to the Iliff community. I want to thank my classmates for making this a possibility, as well as those who would care to join us in making this event a sustainable one for years to come. And finally, I'd like to thank our committed Iliff leadership. We are strengthened by each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. It's a wonderful gift from the class, and it will be used and embodied just as you wish. Thank you to all of you.
Today's reading, Acts 28, 28 to 31, is preceded by the account of Paul's final journey, a journey that ends in Rome, where Paul has called together the local leaders of the Jews to try to convince them about Jesus from the law of Moses and from the prophets. From morning until evening, he preaches and testifies his heart out. But the Jewish leaders, the text says, disagree with one another about the veracity of Paul's message. So as they're heading for the door, Paul hits them with an old prophecy from Isaiah 6, a warning Isaiah delivered to his audience in Jerusalem, that his message would be spoken but not heard, and that the people would see but not perceive. The passage for today begins with Paul's conclusion in verse 28. Let it be known to you then that this salvation of God has been sent to the Gentiles. They will listen. Then it goes on, he lived there 2 whole years at his own expense and welcomed all who came to him, proclaiming the kingdom of God and teaching about the Lord Jesus Christ with all boldness and without hindrance. This is the word of the Lord.
It is my privilege to introduce the speaker of this year's commencement, the Reverend Dr. Willie James Jennings. Dr. Jennings is Associate Professor of Systematic Theology and Africana Studies at Yale University Divinity School. A Calvin College graduate, Dr. Jennings received his MDiv from Fuller Theological Seminary and his PhD in Religion and Ethics from Duke. As a systematic theologian, Dr. Jennings teaches in the areas of theology, Black church and Africana studies, as well as post-colonial and race theory. He writes in the areas of liberation theologies, cultural identities, and anthropology. My personal interest in leading to my invitation to him is related to his work in naming the historic distortions that have been framing theological education and which call for change. Dr. Jennings examines these problems in his book entitled After Whiteness, An Education in Belonging, which recently won the 2020 Book of the Year Award from Publishers Weekly. He writes, belonging must become the hermeneutic starting point from which we think the social, the political, the individual, the ecclesial, and most crucial for this work, the educational. Western education and theological education, as it now exists, works against a pedagogy of belonging. Dr. Jennings speaks directly to our current work at Iliff. His commencement address is entitled, To Become a Place. Let us welcome the Reverend Dr. Willie James Jennings.
Good morning to President Wolf, to the esteemed Dean of the Faculty, Dean Boyoung Lee, to the Chair of the Board, Chairman Pfeiffer, to the celebrated faculty of Iliff, to the staff and students, and especially the graduating class of this year, and to your family and friends. I am exceedingly thankful for this singular honor of being allowed to offer the commencement address for this year. I bring you warmest greetings from Dean Gregory Sterling, the faculty, the staff, and the students of Yale Divinity School. It is a joy for me to share in this moment with you, even in virtual space. For a few moments, I draw your attention to the final verses of the book of Acts, where we find Paul frustrated and incarcerated. His frustrations are part of his ongoing conversations with his own people over what he believes God is doing in the world. There, in the heart of the Roman Empire, Paul is trying to explain to his folk the revolutionary new thing that the God of Israel has done and is doing through Jesus of Nazareth. The old order in all its manifestations, social, political, religious, economic, has been overturned and is now beginning to crumble from within. But Paul's people understand and seem to appreciate much more than Paul where they are. They are in Rome, in the heart of the old order. And no one seems to have gotten this memo about this new order created and inaugurated in Jesus, as far as Paul's people in Rome are concerned. There is no room in Rome for theological experimentation or new theopolitical projects unless you want to end up like Paul, incarcerated. If the frustrations are old yet expected for Paul, so too is his incarceration. He has been jailed before, a Roman citizen, yet incarcerated. This one who's traveled everywhere now cannot go anywhere. House arrest. That is the term we should use for this moment when Paul is living under constrained conditions. On the one hand, he has not yet broken through to his people, not yet convinced them that a new order is here, a new order of life together, Jew and Gentile joined together in a new political and social order. And on the other hand, he's being held captive because of a political system and a judicial system being used to silence him and destroy him. He cannot break through, and he cannot leave. I think all of us now have a keener sense of what it means to live under constrained conditions, where your hopes are pressed hard, even, let's say, incarcerated by difficult realities. And my friends, as you all know, we are in the midst of very difficult realities. Yet Paul, in the midst of his constrained condition, enacts a future for himself in which he becomes a place. He decides to open up where he is, open his story, share his journey, announce the new thing that God is doing and wants to do in the world to all who would come to him, all who would listen to him, all who would sit with him. He will, with courage and conviction, open his life. What does it mean? What does it mean to become a place? I don't mean to have a place, but to become a place. Now, it may seem odd to you for me to speak of a person as a place, but I'm referring here to a kind of becoming through which you become a place of meeting. You become a place of gathering that opens up for people new possibilities for thriving life together, especially in confined and confining spaces. These pandemic days, these Black Lives Matter days, these grotesque inequities in everything days requires a new vision of what we might become collectively and what you might become individually. As you are no doubt keenly aware of now, my friends, theological education has been haunted by a horrible vision of becoming, one rooted in the dreams of the white colonial masters as they looked out onto their colonial holdings. and looked on their sons and grandsons. Those white colonial masters asked, who must my children, my sons, and even my daughters become in order to sustain and enhance this world that I own? Their answer? They must become self-sufficient men who embody possession, control, and mastery. They must become me, he said, but better. It is this sick and distorting vision of becoming that dogs the dreams of formation in Western education, and especially theological education. But we are in need at this crucial moment of a new vision of becoming. I'm reminded of the 1963 Martin Luther King Jr., not the harmless image he has become in our time, but the one who became a lightning rod of controversy by drawing diverse people together in a shared project of Black liberation, Black abolition, who from a jail cell in Birmingham, Alabama, wrote those famous words that we all know so well. And I now quote, "We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. Never again, he said, can we afford to live with the narrow provincial outsider agitator idea." King saw connection and sought to build connection. That, my friends, is what is required to become a place of meeting where new possibilities can be imagined. Now, I want to be very clear here. I need to be very clear here. To become a place of meeting is not to envision yourself in that fictive middle position between liberal and conservative. For so many of us, our social vision has collapsed down into that mindless duality, that stupefying binary of liberal or conservative. And so we are pressed to imagine that the heart of our moral work now is to get liberals and conservatives to talk respectfully to one another. My friends, that is not becoming a place of meeting. That is becoming a place of confusion. As Roland Barthes said, to imagine yourself in some middle position politically and socially is already to not know where you are or when you are. You and I are in a history of separation and segregation rooted in nation, rooted in race, rooted in gender that helps to make possible exploitation and violence even now. We are in a history of struggle. But I know that I am talking to people who understand that we are in a history of struggle. The challenge for us is to not lose ourselves inside a hermeneutic of struggle. The danger for people who are clear on the need to speak truth to power is that we lose sight that the speaking must always be inside the gathering, always inside the connecting. Everything comes down to not how you see struggle, but how you see and build connection. Again, the words of King, we are caught in an inescapable, inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. Never again. Let's stop right there with the never again. This pandemic has brought us into a never again moment. The Black Lives Matter movement, the Black Lives Matter moment has brought us into a never again moment. The hatred and the violence aimed at the Asian community has brought us into a never again moment. Never again has to do with overturning one way of connecting, bound by greed and exploitation, hatred and fear, and living toward another way of connecting, bound by the desire to see and build thriving life, to see it made real all around you. What is required now, my friends, is a subversive desire. A desire to become a place where people thrive. A desire that moves you and I beyond simply being those who are not impediments to people's thriving. That is such a low bar for living, to simply not being an impediment, where people are free to pursue their individual quest for thriving. That is a low bar for living, for working, for thinking and acting. And that low bar will not meet this moment. This moment requires people who wish to place their bodies as living conduits, who make their lives bridges where knowledge and ideas and resources and opportunities and hopes and dreams flow back and forth between peoples and communities that have refused connection and resisted collaboration. This moment will require people who will not only turn their resources, but their lives toward building the common, building the shared, building the joined. This moment requires people who will refuse gated communities, resist gated lives, and place their lives in the midst of others, in the midst of a distressed environment, in the midst of segregated neighborhoods, in the midst of class division, in the midst of grotesque economic inequities, and say to themselves, I will be a place that connects. I will be a place of thriving, in a place where thriving is a distant memory or not a memory at all. What is necessary for this moment is for you to root yourself in a place and decide to become the person whose very name becomes synonymous with a meeting and with a thriving together that others never thought possible, whose very name becomes synonymous with another name that gathers together, another name that gathers hopes and dreams rooted in a life that overcame death and promises and overcoming. And my friends, every place needs that person. Amen.
Oh, come on now, folks. We could cheer for that address. Let's pause it.
Let us pray. I pray on land stolen from Arapaho, Cheyenne, Ute, and other indigenous people. I pray from a place where gods I do not know have been called upon and have answered the cries of their people. Rooted as I am in this place, connected as I am with my God, I pray that all that is holy will receive and answer this prayer that begins in this place. Justice has yet to be and must be realized for countless named and unnamed indigenous peoples and people of color. Justice for these is the beginning of justice for all. May we seek, may we find, may we sustain such justice. Our lives stretch to you always. Our souls reach for you, everlasting. Our hearts beat to your rhythm time before time. And yet our conditions are constrained. Having given our best, there is work yet undone. Though free in you, we sense the constraints of shackles, chains, bars, walls, doors, codes, bullets, tasers. Though free in ourselves, we feel the constraints of skin, language, ability, gender identity, sexual orientation, resource. Dispel our confusion about the constraints under which we must operate, the constraints against which we must struggle, and that which appears as constraint but is no constraint at all. We confess that there have been times and ways we have neglected struggle, refusing to fight the good fight. We confess our participation in exploitation and greed, our chosen gates of segregation. We confess that we have allowed a hermeneutic and interpretive frame of struggle to prevail over connection. We confess that we can be just as blind to our limitations as to our strengths. We confess that we often forfeit our greatest resource, love. Heal us into people of peace who rest, having done justly, loved mercy, and walked humbly with you. Mold us into people of purpose, dismantling the empire within us and imperial rule in this world, recognizing our belonging with and not above other creatures with whom we share this planet, committed to honoring the waters, the soil, the air, the fire, and the minerals that sustain the earth, weeding the moral depravities of prejudice and hatred toward others from our soul. We Iliffians, graduates, alum, families, friends, students, faculty, staff, administrators, and board members, thank you for the ways that we are becoming a place of subversive desire, a place where we gather the hopes and dreams of Asian American and Pacific Islander, Latinx, African descended, indigenous, and all subjugated people, and all people to be free of genocidal agendas and attacks, a place where these hopes and dreams can be manifested, a place where we hear and respond to the cries of our global family, yet languishing with the COVID pandemic. We give thanks for graduates and others in this community who have been, who are, who will become, and who will be such a place wherever life leads. Make us a place of new beginning. Make us a place of fresh vision. Make us a place of sanctified imagination. Make us a place of sacred joy. Make us a place of holy possibilities. Make us a place beyond liberal. Make us a place beyond conservative. Make us a place of justice. Make us a place of meeting. Supreme Being, we pray to belong in such a place, rooted, connected, connecting, and thriving in this inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. As we become such a place, common, shared, joined, connecting, bridges, keep us ever mindful that you are such a place. In the name of such a place, Ashe and amen.
And let all the people say, amen.
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 Good afternoon. My name is Timothy Pfeiffer, and I am the chairperson of the Iliff School of Theology Board of Trustees. Established in 1892 with the laying of the cornerstone on June 8th, the Iliff School of Theology is a freestanding, United Methodist-related theological school, legally authorized to grant master's and doctoral degrees under the authority of the Board of Trustees. As a board, we celebrate scholarly achievement, service to the church and society, and the successful completion of Iliff's academic programs. Upon the recommendation of the faculty, the Board of Trustees has voted to award the degrees Master of Arts in Pastoral and Spiritual Care, Master of Theological Studies, Master of Divinity, and Doctor of Philosophy, respectively, upon the persons here listed. Congratulations.
Before I confer degrees, I want to say a personal thank you to Team. I want to say a personal word of Team Pfizer, who has been our board chair for the last 2.5 years, and he is concluding his term, and we are grateful for his service to Iliff. Now, my favorite time in this whole celebration are these words. To our students, hear these words. On recommendation of the faculty and by vote of the Board of Trustees of the Iliff School of Theology, I hereby confer the degrees as listed in the program with all the rights, powers, and privileges pertaining thereto, in token whereof you will be given the appropriate diploma. Congratulations, everyone.
It is my great honor and privilege of presenting the class of 2021 of the Iliff School of Theology. First, I have the privilege of presenting the candidates for the degree Master of Arts in Pastoral Care, Pastoral and Spiritual Care. Mary S. Newton.
You recorded from your computer, right?
Jesse O'Neill with a distinction. Robert Odell Patterson.
All right, Robert!
Stephanie Lynn Seth.
Thank you, everyone.
I have the privilege of presenting the candidates for the degree Master of Theological Studies.
Master of Divinity. How do I do a screenshot on that? Do I do the 2 buttons?
Ron Ian Gwendolyn Kier Omquist. Ramsey Gordon Hufford.
Way to go, Ramsey!
Bryden Stephen Hunt. Bruce Allen Morgan with a distinction. Bradley Aaron Palmer. Shani Marie Shaper with a distinction. It is my privilege to present the candidates for the degree Master of Divinity. Jamie Catherine Omquist. Molly Booker.
Molly.
Mary Lynn Brent. Cassandra Cecilia Campos McDonald. Sylvia Emily Canty with a distinction. Catherine Melissa Daniels with a distinction. Robin Brown Darrow. Jonathan Edward Drummond with a distinction. Isaac Rogan Dunn. Christine Elizabeth Famila with a distinction. Samuel Scott Fisher. Elizabeth Ellen Graveholt. H.L. Holdebrown. And Lindsay Devons with a distinction. Caitlin Larson. Murphy. Ashley Marie Nolan. Daniel Seth O'Kegley. Radera Ali Paris Woods. Alison Dawn Stillman. Kathy Lynn Swan. Courtney L. Van Linden. Daryl Jerome Walker.
All right.
Go, Daryl!
Go, Daryl!
Connor O'Brien Warren.
Yay, Connor!
I have the privilege of presenting the candidates for the degree Doctor of Philosophy. I will read each of the PhD graduates' name and their dissertation title. So please wait to applaud until after I finish reading their dissertation title. Mark Jeffrey Coulter, dissertation, Spiritual Care of a Gay Man in Committed Relationships, an evidence-based intercultural approach.
Way to go, Mark! Yay!
Gregory J. Grabmeyer, dissertation, Community Unclaimed, Plurality and the Problem of Sovereignty in Badali, Nancy, and Blanchard.
All right, great! Congratulations!
Megan Johnston Ailabuni, dissertation, Out of Time, Temporal Performativity and Resistance in Popular American Film, Television, and Theater. Joshua Allen Lawrence, dissertation, The Murderer's Desire, Levinas, Girard, and Infinite Responsibility.
Love Girard.
Albert McClure, dissertation, Immortal Combat, Iconoclasm and the Hebrew Bible.
Congratulations, Albert!
David Paul Pettit, dissertation, Turning the Tempest of Gods Forgotten, Psalm 42 as a synecdochic leader of the Eloistic Psalter.
Congratulations, David.
Says Matthew Walker, dissertation, righteous remixes, sacred mashups, rethinking authority, authenticity, and originality in the study of religion.
Yay!
April Michelle Wilson, dissertation, a post-colonial womanist deconstruction of the colonial experience of the African-American female through U.S. institutional apparatus known as a criminal justice policy. So please join me in congratulating all of our graduates, the class of 2021.
It's 13 hours.
We are ready, Michael, in the background, for Isabel Rosales to welcome folks to the alumni.
Yes, I have asked her to start video, but she has not yet responded.
Okay, then let's jump to the charge to the graduates, and we'll come back to that after. Well, there's Isabel. Great.
Hi, I'm here. Thank you. Good morning, everybody, or almost good afternoon, depending on where we are. First, I'm really grateful to be sharing this virtual space with everybody. Although I was where the graduates are right now, virtually at the beginning of this pandemic a year ago, in many ways, I really do feel a part of this cohort because I began with all of them 3 years ago. So I do feel a really special connection to many of the graduates today. So thank you for inviting me and thank you for sharing this virtual space with me. Even though I am an alumna, I know that the learning and deconstructing and identity formation and loved relationships that Iliff provided and provides are still a really large part of my life. And so my hope is that wherever our calls, vocations, and pulls take us in life, that through song, reflection, and prayer, and commitment to justice, and ongoing social consciousness raising, and critical engagement, that those continue to connect us, because those are the pillars of an education at Iliff. Ultimately, a degree from Iliff is formal paperwork to be a movement maker and an earth shaker. So I'm very proud to identify with this group as graduates from the Iliff School of Theology. Congratulations, and thank you so much. Felicidades, gracias.
Graduates, when I told friends that I'd been invited to give the charge to the graduates, one asked, "How much are you going to charge?" You'll be relieved to know that it's not that sort of charge. You've paid enough already. Instead, we, faculty, staff, and trustees, other members of the Iliff community, and the family and loved ones you have invited, pause to recognize and to revel with you in your accomplishments. Not simply that you've graduated, though we join you in celebrating that happy fact, but we gather on this festive morning to acknowledge that you are different people than you were when your Iliff journey began. You know more about yourselves, your gifts, and your deepest commitments. You see the world with greater clarity in all its beauty and its divisions and challenges. You have honed your vision, compassion, and built skills and sustained relationships. Before you go, it's good to look back at where you've been. In looking back, I'm sure you think, as I do, of the strange year of COVID-19 in which we've not gathered on campus. Surely you remember particular classes when you came to new insights, friendships established and relationships with mentors, heated discussions that stretched you. Pardon me, I've lost my place. I imagine that you remember where you were when you decided that Iliff was the right theological school for you, and moments that confirmed that decision, and perhaps a few where you wondered if you'd made the right choice. While we're looking back, I'd like to take you to Iliff's earliest days. In 1895, when the cornerstone for Iliff Hall was laid, Bishop Henry White Warren, co-founder of the school, made remarks. In that era, the fundamentalist controversies swept the West as a religious resistance to modernity. But Bishop Warren was a scientist as well as a religious leader. An astronomer, he recognized and responded to the fear of change. And he knew the rise of new understandings of the world around us. And there, at Iliff's founding, he spoke these words: "The School of Theology has been established to promote progress in doctrine and experience. It is based on the best that it may raise to some future better than any present best. In doctrine, it fears no criticism, courts always an advance. God's thoughts," Bishop Warren said, "are yet as high above ours as the heavens are above the earth." He was speaking to those in his day who feared change, who believed that God's work in the world was complete behind us, and therefore that doctrine was established and change to be feared. "Au contraire," the bishop replies, "Iliff will be a place that courts an advance in doctrine, which is to say, at Iliff we believe that creative work and new understandings lie ahead of us, that God's work is ongoing and still to be revealed. So, we who have been on this journey with you say, go forth, do good and creative work, continue to learn new things, be open to what is being revealed, create new doctrine, and make an advance in order that some future may be better than any present best. As Professor Jennings said, become a place of meeting. As Professor Leith said, a place of subversive desire. Speak truth to power and build connection. We see you. We are proud of you. We await with wonder what you will do in the world. Now, go forth to the celebrations and the work that awaits you."
Beloved ones, I am humbled and I am so deeply grateful to celebrate the culmination of this journey here with all of you today. And to my fellow graduates, I want to invite you to just take a moment. Exhale. You did it. We did it. Through all the late nights, the long and the short commutes, the tears and the laughter, the frustrations and the joys, we did it. And I applaud each of us in our achievements, in our resilience, and in our commitments to showing up for ourselves, for our communities, and for one another. We did it. In conversations with fellow classmates of what it meant to embark on this journey, it seemed akin to standing at the edge of a dock and looking into a vast and dark and deep body of water before us. When each of us chose to take the dive into the journey that we called Iliff, we did not know how deep this plunge would take us. And now we are emerging from the baptismal-like waters of seminary into a new and a strange world with muddy, though somewhat present, clarity. We know that the world is not yet what we want it to be. And we know that something, many things, have got to change. We do not emerge from these waters alone. And so to each of us here, I invite, as we emerge, let us become a place that celebrates Black and Brown and Asian and Indigenous lives. Let us go forth and advocate for accessible space and accommodations for the disabled and the chronically ill in our communities. Let us do good and name the goodness that is queerness, that is transness, that is sexuality and our divinely given bodies. Let us go forth and become a place of shelter and of nourishment for those who are left wandering in search of both a physical and spiritual home. To each of us here today, the charges are clear. We have emerged.
Yay!
Good job, Courtney.
Court, thank you very much. It is my privilege on behalf of the institution to receive your charge. And please, I would treasure a copy to continue to be present in the life of this institution. Thank you, Court.
To our dear graduates, and to all those who have gathered together here today in love to give witness to your accomplishments and to celebrate you, a word of blessing. As has been made painfully clear over this last season of your learning, the whole earth, its species, the water and air are crying out for redemption, for new visions of how our common life could offer a place for all to thrive. All of us have found ourselves tied in a single garment of destiny, where what affects one directly affects us all indirectly, whether through the viral spread of pathogens or through videos of extrajudicial killings. We have lived with new and renewed and painful awareness that our thriving is dependent on the actions of others, and that our actions, our collective choices about what is needed for health and sustenance and safety can harm or protect others, and sometimes both. It's been a season of unveiling, of isolation and distancing, of mustering creative energy to persevere in the midst of the unknown. Like so many who came before you, stuff got real while you were studying theology, making plain why dedicating yourself to learning and developing the capacity to respond faithfully to your calling really matter. Not just to you, but to the communities you serve and to the generations that will follow. As you mark the end of your time at Iliff, may you be filled with a subversive desire for the thriving of all, so that you become a place of gathering, a meeting house that opens up new possibilities of life together. With courage and conviction, may you release the temptations of self-sufficiency and mastery and possession and control. May you find humility and wonder in the face of that which is unfamiliar to you, and the willingness to lend your strength in concert with others who are practicing forms of life that are healing and sustaining. May you find a rhythm of good work and untroubled rest, networks of belonging and precious moments of solitude, times of sensuous pleasure and reserves of fierce courage, friends that lighten the load, and companions who speak truth in love. Know that you are beloved in all of your contradictory, complicated, and incomplete ways of being on this earth. You are beloved. So be loved, and then love what is before you as only you can. Amen.
So again, we ask you to intentionally put your hands out to the side, and that connects to the side, and that's going to connect our boxes to your right and to your left. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the ones. We are the ones.
Time for the final cheer. Let's hear it. Everybody.
Congratulations, Paul.
Our ceremony is officially ended, but you are most welcome to hang out and greet one another. We're stopping the recording.
Oh, yeah, can you put her on the big screen?